Traders, welcome back to the channel. Today we are bringing you a sponsored video, and the video is going to be going over ticker symbol NPEZF. This is a pink sheet penny stock, and it's going to be going over a copper based mine here in Nevada in the United States of America. So that's worth noting. This is not a Canadian based stock. A lot of these sponsored videos come from Canadian based stocks, so this is going to be focused here in the United States. Now, copper is a little bit interesting. If you know me personally, my long-term portfolio is primarily made up of minerals. That's a very large influence when it comes to the long-term portfolio. So this does have me a little bit intrigued as I looked more into them. And the key point of copper is going to be with what's happening with clean energy, as we're kind of trying to get the conductivity of everything to a high tier level. Copper could be a hot play, so we're going to be looking a little bit more into this company, kind of giving my unbiased opinion based on this stock. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it. Okay, so I'm going to go over two articles here in the video, going over a few things that the company claims to be doing. Now, it's showing that they're trying to expand and kind of focus on the mines that they currently have, and they're trying to just see more about copper. Now, in the company description, they do try to harvest gold, silver, and copper, but right now copper is the central focus, which I think is pretty smart with the wave of new EV and clean energy coming to the market. I think copper is going to be very much in demand. We've went over silver, but I definitely think copper is cheaper and going to be more in demand than the other two. Now, gold is going to be in demand as far as inflation and kind of hedging portfolios, but that's another talk for another day. So we're going to get into these articles going over what the company does and kind of the overall growth of the company as well. So let's get right into it. A great way that they describe their company is basically that they are leveraged against the copper market, right? So if copper goes up, their company value should theoretically go up in value as well, which with these mineral plays, that's why I love playing them. And that's why I'm heavily into clean energy minerals. Now, I don't have any copper in the portfolio, so I'm really being an unbiased opinion here because I haven't really seen the value of getting into it. But the more we look on it, the more bullish it does look. And I do think minerals have a lot of upside compared to the rest of the market because we've seen an overall massive leg and massive growth of stocks across the board. So minerals do have that value, especially with inflation occurring here in America. So one of the best ways to add exposure to a strong performing commodity is via the small companies mining and producing that commodity. It usually works this way with crude oil versus oil stocks. This is kind of what we've been doing over the past 2 weeks, trading oil because they're so strong with reopening. Gold versus gold mining stocks, copper versus copper mining stocks. Returns are typically amplified and leveraged relative to the actual commodity itself. Yes, this can be true. Now, this isn't always true, but it definitely can be true. We've seen the gains be absolutely massive with Exxon and Diamondback Energy. Those really did prove to be very, very profitable for us. So, and the thought process was there. The crude oil market was going to be going up, so we just traded stocks based on crude oil instead of buying the actual commodity itself because there was more room to go up. This goes the same way with overall trading the same ETF. Instead of trading the ETF, we traded specific stocks we saw with high growth potential. So that's kind of the argument being made here. Now, there's nothing special about this mining company. It's just a very cheap mining company here in Nevada, and they're focused on these minerals. Now, I see the growth potential looking at it. Like I've been mentioning gold, silver, copper. Those are pretty in-demand things as well. Now, copper is more than just a monetary value. It has use cases for conductivity and with electrical purposes. That's a pretty big necessity right now in the current state of America and the industrial age that we are in right now. And I do see this continuing to grow in the coming summer months. That's going to be pretty big. We see steel at astronomical prices. I see, copper staying right there with it. So that is worth mentioning. And when we go over to the chart, you're going to see overall, this has seen a very, very large dip. So possible buying opportunity as well. But again, this is not financial advice. So do your own due diligence on the company and do your due diligence on the sector overall of copper, because that's kind of the more important factor here. They are a mining company engaged in the business of acquiring, exploring, and developing prospective copper properties directly in response to the growth of the electrical vehicle industry. Focus on high-grade prospective copper properties in North America, Bam Bam Resources aims to build a portfolio of copper projects in prospective mining-friendly jurisdictions. So they're focusing again on that EV facility, and I think it's kind of overlooked that they could be focusing heavily on the clean energy sector with the new plants being built and stuff like that. We're shifting gears overall. So that's the pretty big part. Now, this is their main mine that they currently have, the Majuba Hill Robust Potential. This has a lot of room and a lot of room for growth, and this is kind of what our next article leads on to. It kind of goes over the growth, the potential. It does a very in detail viewpoint of this mine as well, and what you can overall expect here. So I'll have the links down below so you can check those out and do your own research. Now, I want to spend a little bit more time on the chart, showing overall the potential that is here. So let's slide over to the chart. Now, looking at the chart, if you know, for the past few weeks, we've had a pretty big downturn. So as we grab the drawing tool, you can see we've overall just been pushing straight down over the past 2 weeks. But for the past 3 weeks, the stock market has been correcting. The Nasdaq, all indexes are very, very low. But we're seeing we're holding this range down here, the overall bottom, that 28-cent range. Now, overall, I don't think there's much risk for myself if I'm buying at that range. Again, I'm not a stockholder in this. I own none personally, but I do like what's going on. I do like the overall movement. I like the bottoming that's happening here in the OBV, showing that buyers are getting back into it. Now, where would I be looking for potential profits? Now, I'm looking right here at this 45-cent range. Does it have room to go higher? Yes. But if I'm looking at these mineral plays, you have to have a lot of confidence in the company. And overall, Bam Bam just hasn't been around long enough for me personally to be a long-term person into this. So for me personally, this isn't really a longer-term viewpoint, but I do see the short-term potential. If I'm looking for an upward push, that 45, 44-cent range, I definitely could see that as a possibility. Now, again, if you're looking at a long-term viewpoint and that's something you are interested in, I like the fact that we're holding that 25-cent range. I don't see us going too much deeper below that. You know, these mineral companies do have local bottoms and kind of basement prices, so they're gonna be in necessity and in demand overall because of everything happening with inflation in the current state of the US dollar. So that's something to take into account. Again, I want to focus on this OBV down here. Now, you're seeing a local bottom happening, and typically when this happens, we start getting more of an upward trend back to the upside. And typically when we bottom out, it kind of leads us to believe we're going to get another level or another pushback or a bottoming out on this overall right here. So I do like this for the upward trend possibly being formed here, getting that initial push to the 44, 45-cent range. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get that push anytime soon. I can't really tell you, especially because the market is getting a very big push on the downside. But kind of leveraging my portfolio personally into mineral stocks, I see the gist of it. I could see how it's a good hedge, and also how it could move up even if the market starts to move up as well. So it's not a hedge that only goes up if the market goes down. It could play out pretty well each way. So I do like it on both sides of it. So I could see this copper mine specifically doing well. Now, you've seen over the past few videos, I've done sponsored videos on copper, gold, and silver. Now, it's kind of becoming a trend if you haven't seen. I like talking about mineral companies because that makes up such a large part of my long-term portfolio. Now, I haven't pulled the trigger on a silver, gold, or copper company, but it's coming time to where I believe I'm going to have to make that decision, especially for my portfolio. So if nothing else, I think looking into these copper companies, silver and gold, is going to be pretty vital. But the difference between silver and copper is the conductivity properties, and then copper specifically, it is way more affordable than something like silver, and the heavy and density is going to play a bigger part in the role as well. So those are all things to take into account with the stock. So looking at the stock, what's my overall opinion? Give them a rating on that 1 to 10 ratio. Where did I put them at? Now, looking at mineral plays, if I had to rate a number 1 10 out of 10, it would be MP. That's overall top of the chart just because of everything going on systematically with the company, and then overall with the President of the United States, and kind of setting tariffs overall going on with China and China's tariffs back at us. MP is just setting up to be an absolute skyrocket beautiful play. Now, looking at MPEZF, this leads me to putting them on a lower tier, maybe a 5.5 to 6. Now, that isn't terrible. It's not bad. Like, it's not a terrible base company. The worst of the worst I've ever rated is a 1 out of 10, which is SOS, the worst company I've ever looked at. Absolutely looks terrible. So that's something to take into account. But I like what they're doing. I like the base of the company being a copper-based mining company. I like that it's leveraged, and that point is very big there, that the company is basically leveraged against the copper market, especially because these minerals are going to continue to do well, especially in the current state of our economy. That is a focal point. That is something you have to take into account. But again, guys, this is a sponsored video. Take it with a grain of salt. Make sure you do your own due diligence. I need to focus on that. But I think the market overall has lots of room to run. Copper, silver, gold, all of them have lots of room to run, and they look pretty good as well. So take a peek at the stock. Do a little bit of your own research. The links are down below. Make sure you guys subscribe. Have a good one, boys. Namaste.